Okay, so today for Alana's birthday, we are going to be painting a winter scene. We're going to first start with a sketch. I'm going to hold my paper vertically, the long way, so that I can orient it the same way my canvas is going to be. You're going to start off by sketching the trees and the landscape itself, just to kind of get out the basic idea. So I drew a line across my page just to set out where everything's going to lay. And then I started to draw some triangles, which represent the base shape of the tree. So everybody here can draw triangles, rectangles, circles, and everything that you draw is made up of these simple shapes. So anytime you're trying to draw anything, if you break it down into simple shapes, you'll be more successful at building it up to be what you want it to be. So I'm drawing a little cabin, and you could make yours look further off. You could make it bigger, smaller. You know, you get to design this how you want. I'm just giving you a basic idea as to how I created mine. So I have a roof with snow, and I'm making a window, and I'm going to put some light in that window and a little chimney with some smoke coming out of it. I'm going to draw a moon as well. I always, some mountains in the background here, and a path coming away from the house. So now I'm going to add my moon in, and I'm going to make mine a full moon. You can make it a crescent moon. You could put stars in the sky. You could make it look like the aurora borealis when you paint it in and have it be all kinds of multicolored sky. It's really up to you, and that's the fun part. Is I love seeing how everybody adds their own details to their piece. So as you go, I'm just kind of practicing with the trees, you know, designing out. I'm going to have them be pine trees, and so there'll be a shape inside of that triangle. So I kind of wiggle in and out and just get a basic idea for how it's going to work. And then we're going to take this sketch and we're going to turn it into our sketch on our canvas. So if you want to add any other details, you can. Like you could add a little bunny rabbits in the foreground. You could draw a little wolf. It's up to you. So now we're going to paint the background after you get it sketched out onto your canvas. I took my sketch and then put it on my canvas. And I always start at the top, and I'm going to go around the larger features. So there's the smoke and the trees and the cabin and the mountains and the edge of the trees, and I'm going to go around all of those features. I also added some shadow below my trees and a little bit of shadow for the house or the cabin. But you can decide if you like that or you want to just leave it as is. It doesn't have to. Shadow just always brings dimension into your work. So if you add shadow, you'll find it will make it look more three-dimensional. So you can see my two brushes that I'm using. I'm basically using a wider brush and a thinner brush. I can use the thin one, the edge of it like that, or I can use it flat. So either way works perfectly fine. I'm using a plate for mixing. So you can choose your background color, and I'm doing this kind of deep navy color. And I start to work into a lighter color as I go, so I fade from one color into the next. So you'll see I start to add some white into the lighter blue, and many people know this as ombre, so it fades from one into a lighter color, a darker color into a lighter color. So I'm going to do that as I go down. I'm just working around areas that I know I'll want to be lighter. So if you paint over the moon and you paint over the smoke from the chimney, it's going to be a little more difficult to paint over it. Not too bad, but it might take a couple of times. So I paint around it, and then you can add other details on top, smaller details after. So now I'm working around the trees to start to give them shape. And you're gonna make the trees black. They'll be silhouetted, so they'll be black. So you can always paint over these lines, but it's just to basically cut out the area that the trees will be. And I am just working in, getting the background to where I want it to be, fixing it up so it's just as I feel good about. And now I'm adding the shadow. And as I said before, shadow is just such a fun thing to work with because it really brings out dimension in your work. So it starts to give it a little more depth and give a little more story. So I did the walkway a little bit darker because essentially it would be down in the snow. So I just made that a little bit darker. And I did repaint over my white snow. I painted over it again white, just to give it a little more texture. Now I'm working in the mountains, and I am kind of making them a dark, almost silhouetted, but then I add a little bit of white to make it look like there's snow on the mountain. So I do that at the end, which is a nice little feature. So I'm just working in those mountains. Now, after I finish the mountains, I'm going to start in with the silhouette black of the trees. So now I'm adding the white for the smoke. So I'm going around inside what I created for the smoke, or the chimney smoke, to be coming up. And I made mine kind of going into my full moon, but you can choose how you want yours to look. It can look a little more wispy, or it can, go all the way across your canvas up into the other side. Totally up to you. I'm just adding some white and black to make a light gray color. So now we're going to be painting the cabin, and I want my cabin to be a dark red color. So one thing that is really a neat technique is to use the complementary color of red. So red and green are complementary colors. They look really good next to one another, but they also destroy each other. So if you mix them together, they get darker. So, well, yes, it depends on which color you're using. So I'm using red, and then I'm going to add a little bit of green to it, and it will start to make it a little more maroon-like. You can do the same with black if you'd like. And I'm adding some dark shadow, and then I start adding a little bit of shadow into the moon. And I want my moon to be kind of yellow, have a little bit of a yellow glow to it. But, when you look up at a full moon, you usually can see little caverns and kind of some darker spots and areas, so I added that as well. Now, this is a really fun technique. This is where you take a toothbrush and you dip it in a little bit of water, and then you add some white paint to the end of it, and you flick it on your canvas. So you can do it as much or as little as you like, but it represents some snow floating around there and in your atmosphere there. So you can go ahead and do it as much or little, and if you don't like what you got, you can just kind of wash it out with your paintbrush and then start again and give it another shot. I can't wait to see what you guys create.